it's far too important what we are doing, and I want to see these neonates actually having a life, right? And there is a chance that, I don't know, we need to see the data, right? But there is a chance that we could have that option. And so I just don't want to deny the ability to do something if I can do something and if I still have it in me, right? To do it. Because if it can benefit someone, then I'll do it. If I see that the day that I see that I'm not there or they are barely there, I certainly won't accept a job like this, right? Because it's in the end the responsibility that you feel towards these lives, it's far too big than anything else.
I'm Pedro Coelho, your host, and this is The End Talks. In this episode, when science becomes a mission, with my guest, Paolo Martini. Paolo, first, thank you for making the journey all over here. It's been a pleasure to have you already for now the second day.
Yeah.
I usually like to start with one question, which is, who is Paolo Martini and how did you get here?
How did I get here? So for who is Paolo Martini? Paolo Martini was a young Italian with a lot of dreams. Not much expectation at the time, but certainly a lot of dreams, and then no clues of what would have happened in the future, but certainly someone open to try, right? And when I received a fellowship to go to the United States to work, I said, why not, right? And that was the beginning of a new Palomar, actually. In spite of the struggle, initially understanding the culture, the language, etc. At a certain point, I started to enjoy the science in a way that I never actually had the opportunity to do. Then, with the idea, then go back to Italy or stay in the United States. There was no way that I was going back. There was no options in Italy. Therefore, I decided to stay in the United States, and the first job came because it was the only way to stay and to get a visa that allowed me to stay longer in the United States. Then the real Paolo Martini came out with ADHD and with many ideas, many things. I couldn't stop my brain. And I was getting far too bored by everything. And so I had to move to the next. And so the opportunity came with Shire. I worked at Serrano, then came with Shire when they asked me to work in rare diseases, which I thought it was fascinating. I was terrified because I knew nothing, but I took the challenge and it was a great time. I met incredible people. I learned so much in drug discovery, drug development. I worked with incredible people in marketing. The legal counsel at Shire was probably the most incredible and most valuable person that gave me the most of the knowledge that I have now and that I develop based on what I learned from him. And we are still friends, in fact, and he's on my scientific advisory board, in fact, because I just look at him as sort of the god of pharmaceutical industry. Right? And he gave me the opportunity really to learn so much, to the point that Moderna in 2015 called me, and I decided to do it just because I did something with a messenger RNA I thought it was promising. And then when Moderna called me, I said, why not? So I had nothing to lose. Turned out to be an incredible story, but in 2020, during the pandemic, unfortunately, I was stabbed in my back by my ex and killed. So I was dead for about 20 minutes. Brought back to life and changed completely my vision of life and the things that I really wanted to do. Gave me the opportunity to focus more on patients rather than research, right? And so for me, then it became a mission really to do science with the benefit of basically the benefit for the patients. Suddenly I cared more about people than the science. The science obviously had to be critical for these patients. Otherwise, there was no compromise. Right? And that event also gave me the opportunity to learn so many things about myself, about a way to approach life, which I haven't reached that level yet, but I know what I need to. But it was an important event that gave me the opportunity to, at a certain point, move on, finish the work at Moderna, because I basically accomplished the mission that I wanted to accomplish there. And then eventually retire for a little while to take care of myself, which I didn't, because the call for science, the call for the patients was far too important. And then when I got this proposal to work with neonates in a drug that is perfectly safe, that has incredible potential, I thought, maybe I can save some neonates, right? And I went back to work. So now I find myself working like a madman again, but I have a purpose, and the purpose is definitely patient. So for me now, it changed completely the perspective, because I can see the importance of life being granted a second life, right? And you know how valuable it is.
Wow. At
Yeah,
first,
you
I
didn't
thought,
expect it.
not only I didn't expect it, but at first I thought it was a metaphorical
No,
stabbing in the back, and then I realized it wasn't. So,
no.
first of all, congratulations on having a second life, because I think, unfortunately, not many people in your shoes wouldn't have had this chance.
Yeah.
Without getting too emotional, because I
Yeah.
don't want you to cry either, but
Yeah.
when you go through this phase, obviously everything gets into perspective. The whole life gets put into perspective, and you probably question most of the things certainly when it's so close to you, because it wasn't like you were walking on the street and a thief stabbed you. So I
No,
think
someone that in theory think that you love and loved you, right? And that's why it's even more shocking, right?
the betrayal that happens there, I mean, it's funny, and I'll try to connect this with something else you said there earlier. You described this person that is now in our advisory board as the god of pharmaceuticals for you. Actually, you have that place in my mind, that you are the god of
Oh my
pharmaceuticals for
gosh.
me.
Now you make me feel bad.
And it is genuine, by the way. I think if and when, and as you know, you serve as an advisor to buyers too, because when I have a question or a doubt, you're the person I go to in this space, because I do think that your realm of experience is amazing. And then you have your own person there too, and the same pedestal, and I love that. But then when someone as close to you does that, which is always not the same person, but how does that make you look at all of your relationships across your life, right? Because suddenly, probably the person you trusted the most,
Yeah.
perhaps in the world, because obviously, I'll say initially in your life, perhaps was your parents, but then eventually evolves to become your partner. So, how does that change your relationship with people? Because it's
Yeah.
very hard to trust someone again, I assume.
You know, it's interesting you say this, because on that side he didn't change much at all, because I am an optimist by nature, right? And as I said, it was 2020 during the pandemic. I was in the hospital fighting for my life and texting my team to be sure that the antigen was characterized correctly, while all the rare diseases project were going on, etc., etc. And so I was not thinking about myself. I was thinking of the importance of having the vaccine validated so that it could go out, right? And then for myself, when I started thinking more, I realized that I don't see, I cannot stand violence, obviously. I just, if someone even raised the voice, I just get terrified. But the most important thing was that, for a reason, I was more focused on the good. I would see good in everyone, to the point that I still trust people that I shouldn't trust, in fact. and and in this, in a metaphorical way, I get still stabbed again a few times, but because I don't see evil, right? I just don't like to see evil, and that's what I think allows me then to focus always on the right things, and to maybe put enough efforts, because where I see evil, then I try to cover with good. right? Because I always think that in the end, good has to prevail.
First of all, it's beautiful to see that even after all of that, the positivity in you remain as the first thing in terms of priority in overall life. Because obviously, at that point in time, there's a few people I know that have this transformational moment in their life, and many of them, when that something like that happens, obviously not necessarily the same, but something like that happens, they can easily blame that for any bad in life.
Yeah.
And you still chose to take a positive turn and to continuously be optimistic, which for me is beautiful to see, number one. But number two, it's incredible that even while you're at the hospital, your priorities almost the health of the world by working on a vaccine that eventually will help many of us to survive.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it, actually. Now that you say, because for me, that was the most important thing was that everything at work would go on. Many of my team didn't know, only my chief of staff. She knew because I never miss work, I never missed a meeting, I never missed anything. And the morning I was missing, right? Because I was in ICU. And so she was wondering, she was worried, and then she notified Steven, the president of the company, which called me. He was devastated, and I was like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." and for the whole week that I was in the hospital, I kept texting just to be sure that everything was going the right way, because also sometimes is a way to cope with a reality that is too difficult to digest, right? And then obviously I did everything that I needed to do. I did EMDR therapy. Obviously I wanted to get better. These are traumatic events in your life that can change your life for the good or for the bad, right? And I decided that it has to be changed for the good. And so I did everything possible because I knew that there were many more things in life that I needed to do that I didn't finish, and therefore I wanted to be ready for. So it took a lot of energy, but I was able to do it. And now I'm here, and it's like, wow, it's I feel like now I have the opportunity of my life, right? Even with this company and these work that we are doing, it, it's quite incredible, and it's quite incredible that I'm able to do it, and I'm able to translate some of the things that I've been fighting for patients, for the advocacy of certain things, the benefit of certain drugs. I as you heard me, I certainly not a one that is shy to express his opinion, but because now I know I have nothing to lose, right?
It's funny you say that, and I think you know my story too, but obviously I lost my father, which is why I decided to create this company. And literally half an hour ago in an interview, someone asked me, Pedro, what do you have to lose? And then I said, actually, I lost everything I could. And it was the last thing that I had was my father. And then after that, probably until I have kids, this is it. So, but in a very strange turn of events, you lost your life and got it again, which is even more extreme than what I went through in a certain way, or in a different way.
It's a different way, but it's because what I gathered from you last night was how important was your father, right? And sometimes we have sort of pillars in our life that are critical, and they give you the opportunity to become who you want to be because they're always there to guide you in the right way, right? And obviously, your father is there, but you know that, for example, he's always in you in the moment that you are looking for guidance, right? Because I sort of always remember something that he has said. So it is the same experience. It's just a different person, huh? But it's exactly the same trauma, right?
It is. And, funny enough, I usually use this expression. And I always feel like someone on the other side might not understand what I'm about to say. And I think for some reason, I feel like now, after knowing your story, you will definitely understand. I say that my father's death was the worst and the best that happened to my life.
Yeah.
Because while it was, and I would swap any day, giving back this company, giving back my whole, everything I've built since for his life back. The reality was that if that didn't happen, none of us would be here today in this event, and certainly not
Yeah.
with this company that I'm building. And while it was indeed the worst thing that happened in my life, it also gave me an opportunity to change my whole life for the better.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I understand and I think I know why you wake up every day and came back from retirement to work again. But for the people that don't understand that, why did you decide after 4 months of retirement? And for those that don't know, I'm sure, and you don't need to say, I'm sure you're more than well off after what you did with Moderna. You don't need to work for money. So what drives you to go back out of retirement and come back again into the leadership position in a pharma company?
When Jody, the one that was a friend, that she was like, she was advising me of leaving Moderna, that I had better things to do. I was like, okay, what do you want from me? Right? And then I understood that she put these slides in my hands, right, on my birthday, which we supposed to celebrate by having a dinner and go to Broadway. And instead it became a working dinner and with me sitting at Broadway thinking, I need to read these slides, right? There's something that I need to do. And this was just before the weekend. And then I told her, okay, I'll give you an opinion by Monday. Saturday, I called her because obviously I couldn't wait. I said, what is wrong with these people? Why did you do this, right? And she said, when are you starting? I said, no, I didn't. I said, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I just need to take care of myself. I said all the time that I always put too much. And sooner or later, I started working. In August, I was already working from June to August. And so in the end, we're only 4 months retirement. But what was important was seeing an incredible asset that was sort of having the risk of not being seen in the right way by FDA, because we were two academics, right, that they came up with an incredible idea. They just didn't know how to develop it. And they needed someone that had a drug development experience there. And so when you see something like that with a safety profile and then potentially saving neonates, right, that was like, there was not even questions. It was like, when do I start really? Because I still wanted to get some time for myself, which I didn't. And realizing that on my contract, I was pushed to sign because it needed to be voted by the board, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize that they put the starting date August 5th, when in reality I asked to start to work in September 15, right? And so they voted me in, and then as as they started sending material, I said, no, I'm not working now. They said, no, your starting date was August 5th. I said, no, I didn't even look at it. You didn't even give me the time to look at that, right? Anyway, I stopped it because it was far too important to do it. And do I have any regrets? Absolutely not. Sometimes the things I regret sometimes is just that having these schedules, right? Always set up, and then you have to be there. You have to go to a certain meeting. Well, maybe as a consultant, I would have done it differently at my own leisure, right? That's the things that really is tough to digest right now. But in the end, once I get into the conversation, once I get into the core of the meeting, all of that disappear because it's far too important what we are doing, and I want to see these neonates actually having a life, right? And there is a chance that, I don't know, we need to see the data, right? But there is a chance that we could have that option, and so why not, right? And I just don't want to deny the ability to do something if I can do something and if I still have it in me, right? To do it, because if it can benefit someone, then I'll do it. If I see that the day that I see that I'm not there or I'm barely there, I certainly won't accept a job like this, right? because it's in the end the responsibility that you feel towards this life. It's far too big than anything else, and so that's what drives me, right? And because if I can offer something, I'll do it. And that's also a lesson that I learned by coming back to life, because I said maybe I came back for a reason, right? Maybe I came back because I needed to finish something. I needed to offer something to someone else, right? And so now everything that is offered to me as an option, I'll do it.
Paul, I have one last question for you before we wrap up. Whenever eventually life comes to the end, how would you want to be remembered by?
I don't care. It's not important.
Well, I'll tell you how I'll remember you, as a hero that very few people know. Paolo, it was genuinely a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming.
Now you be
Because it's genuine, by the way.
Right.
I genuinely didn't know your story, and I'm myself here in tears, as you can about to see. But honestly,
when you told me about your data center, and I knew why we connected, why I needed to work with you. There are certain things that you perceive, right, from people, and obviously you get extra sensitive about certain things, right? Because I've been in an incredible state that I remember perfectly what it was, and so you know what is the beauty of life, right? And so sometimes the subconscious starts you there, right? Yeah, you need to work. I remember when you called me and said, "Oh, I want to talk to you." I said, "Okay." And I said, "I need to work with him." And that's why I accepted because I knew that there would be something coming out of this, right? And so, and I still, more so now, I know that that's why last time I told you when we talk, take it to the next level, bring it up, because you have the opportunity to make a difference, right? Not many people have that opportunity, and because you're doing it with your heart, is and not only with your mind. The combination of the two, it's critical, because that what is basically gives you the extra gear, so to speak, to get there. Because many people do it just with their mind, and they fail. But when you do it also with your mind and with your heart, it's difficult to fail, because you perceive and you know if you're doing the right things or not. So
yeah, Paul, I mean, obviously I don't talk about these often too, but there was phases when it wasn't that easy, you know?
yeah,
And there's one point I actually don't talk much at all. I did 232 pitches to raise our last round before this one. And at some point, it was 8, 10, 15 one day,
yeah,
explaining my father's story and what made me create this company. And eventually I felt bad with myself because I realized that perhaps I was productifying my own story to become the story of this company. And one day I got home and I told my wife, I hate myself. She was like, why? And I said, well, all day, every day, all I do is almost sell my father's story for the reason why I'm here. And still, after 130 pitches, I get no's. Spending my own and obviously my wife's money to keep paying salaries, to keep following this, in theory, journey, dream that I had that obviously I didn't know if eventually could be achieved. Yeah. And one day, obviously, as you know, when you feel these things, eventually they come across to someone. Yeah. And this one person that then decided to invest in Biorce told me, Pedro, you need to understand that it's not your story, it's the story of the company.
yeah,
And regardless, while it's your story, it's the reason why we're all here. So you don't have nothing to be ashamed of, because this is why you got so many great people around you.
yeah.
And you need to be proud of that. And eventually I turned it mentally around that was indeed a positive thing. But obviously for a good few weeks, he was dragging me down.
Yeah, because you feel guilty that you're almost exploiting the story for something, when in reality it's not for that reason. It's actually because it's your story, and it's your story that allowed you to create something that you wanted to create. It was you for that you were going to help, right? So don't ever forget that, because it's so easy to get into this trap of you're using something. You're not using something. It's your story. It's you, and you is the company, right? So what is wrong with that?
No, but in the beginning, and now I'm fully in peace, and
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I get teared anyway every time someone mentions this on a panel and everything, but it's what it is. And I say this myself, like when even last week on the panel, someone talked about this and I said, well, usually if I say that I will not cry, I don't cry. So I'll use this technique and then I don't cry. But it's a reality, and it's a reality that I learned to accept, but it made it easier with time. But during that phase, when you're getting no after no after no, and all you do is back to back telling the story, it was definitely a tough one.
I have no problem now in crying. I don't care. I don't care what people think, because in the end, it's an emotion, and it's an emotion we have, and it's part of us, right? So before I was the same. I would never cry. Now I cry like a baby.
Yeah, now me too, but as you could tell, Paolo, give me a hug. It was a pleasure. Yeah, honestly, thank you, gladly.